Join the FlashPoint Live Rescue America Tour as we close out 2024 for the United We Stand event at New Beginnings Church, hosted by Pastor Larry Huck in Bedford, Texas. Join Gene Bailey, Lance Walnow, Hank Kuhneman, Mike Lindell, and Rick Green as we stand as one nation under God. Join us on October 24th at New Beginnings Church in Bedford, Texas. Register today at 2024flashpoint.live.
All right, let me introduce a local pastor here from Fort Worth, Landon Schott, a senior pastor, along with his wife Heather, there at Mercy Culture. First off, Pastor Landon, thank you for joining us tonight. Tell us about the Justice Residences, what that is, and then what's going on. Go ahead, take it away.
We have a ministry called the Justice Reform, and we are currently building the largest long-term care for survivors of human trafficking in the nation. This is a state-of-the-art $15 million facility, and it is this amazing, amazing ministry that rescues, that ministers to, and supports the most broken in our society. And so the ministry is called the Justice Reform, and this project is called the Justice Residence. So it will house 100 survivors of human trafficking, which, Gene, we have millions and millions of women that are being trafficked in sex trafficking. And Texas is actually the #1 suppliers of human trafficking in the nation right now. And so this is a massive need in our community and in our nation right now.
Seems like a great thing. What's the problem?
Well, the problem is the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And there is an antichrist spirit that comes to oppose the things of God. One thing I've learned pastoring our church over the last 5 years is the enemy can care less how big our churches are as long as we stay in them. And so what happened is we have been demonically resisted and harassed from the beginning of this project. I want to be really, really clear. We're not asking the city for money. We're not asking the city for help. We just want to build this facility on our church property that the Constitution of the United States allows us to do, the Texas Constitution allows us to do, and we have been harassed, we have been resisted around every corner. And I want to be clear with this. We're not asking the local government to help us. They just want to stop us from helping victims of sex trafficking. And so they have opposed us at every turn. And recently we exposed it in the media. We exposed it publicly. And we let the Fort Worth know, we let our church know what was going on. And our church rose up, and our church is getting really bold. And we need the FlashPoint Army to join us as well.
All right, let me go. Rick Green, you hear this? I mean, what's the problem here? They're doing a good thing. Survivors of human trafficking, they're paying for it. They're putting it on their own property that's zoned for a church-related activities. Why? What could possibly be a good reason for the pushback?
Well, because government always knows best, Gene.
Okay.
You know, how dare the pastor actually think that he knows best what the church should do with their property and how they could meet the needs of the community best. I mean, this is the same nonsense I'm dealing with the Patriot Academy campus. Government trying to tell us what we can build, how we can build it. It all comes back to a basic concept of property rights and the ability for the person that actually owns the property to determine what they're going to do with the land. Now, if you actually hurt a neighbor, if you build your septic system and it runs off into the neighbor's yard and you become a nuisance in some way with noise or whatever, then absolutely they should be able to take you to civil court and prevent you from harming their property. But what we've done is we've empowered local governments to dictate up front what you can do. And if you have to ask permission, you're not free. And they look for ways to stop the church from doing the good work that it's trying to do in the community. I get salty about this stuff because I don't think you can have freedom without property rights. And I don't think the church or ministries like Patriot Academy can do what we've been called to do if the government gets to dictate to us what we're doing. And I bet, Pastor, you've probably run into significant increase in cost because of silly requirements that they place on you, whether it's light justice, where you can actually light up the porch or the parking lot, or how many ladies you can actually house on the property, or all of these things that they use to micromanage what you're doing. The pastor knows best what to do with that property, not government. And we need to get back to that basic idea of property rights.
I love it. All right, Landon, you heard what Rick said. What is it? I know you've made this public. You've brought it to the citizens of Fort Worth. So what can we do, a FlashPoint Army? What can we do to rally around you and help? What is it you're asking?
I appreciate you asking. So the FlashPoint Army can actually go to thejusticereform.com/bold, if you put bold on the end of that. And we have a list right now of every single member of the city. So every single member of the city council. And here's the thing is the mayor, Maddie Parker, has said that she's going to support this. And there's some conservatives on there, but there's also some absolute fringe left-wing radicals that might try to slow this down. There's a woman named Elizabeth Beck who has tried to defund the police. She's tried to put tampons in boys' bathrooms, and she is in this woke ideology that is destroying our cities. This woman and other liberals are going to try to stop this. Again, I want to be clear. They're going to try to stop us from helping survivors of human trafficking, which is insane. So we need the FlashPoint Army, especially everybody who's local, to light up the phones, light up their emails, let them know that this is something that we need in our city. This is something that we want in our city. And we need to let them know if city council members do not support this, then we're going to get every single one of them out. We're going to get someone else in their seat who will serve the citizens of Fort Worth well. So we need our city council to serve the city of Fort Worth well by serving our citizens. And that is the Christians as well.
All right, Lance, you hear Pastor Landon here talking about what he's dealing with. In grade school, there's a bully. And if you don't ever deal with the bully just keeps going. And in a weird, warped way, it feels like the city's just trying to bully their way and get what they want to do here.
Yeah, and I think there's a backstory here because I'm very interested in Pastor Landon's church, Mercy Culture, because we've had a couple of his members of his church on FlashPoint. I don't know if our people remember, but he's been calling them into civic engagement. So, you have altar calls for salvation, you have altar calls for healing, altar calls for rededication. Well, after they do that, they have altar calls for serving their city, being involved with government, getting involved with open doors where they can engage the civic structure. This is what churches ought to do. It's kind of like the model of the Reformation, the way that it's going to happen in a lot of cities. And I really believe that part of the pushback that he's experiencing is a message from the elites that own the gates of influence in the government mountain, saying, you Christians, get back over there in your church shire, stay in your building, keep your mouth shut. You leave the government to us. It reminds me of when Hitler called all of the pastors of the nation to meet with him. He said, you take care of the religious issues and you leave the government and the nation with me and we won't have a problem. The problem with that is the government, the Bible says, will be upon his shoulders, and when the righteous rule, the city is blessed, and when the wicked rule, they groan. So what you're seeing here is pushback, I believe, from the political realm in order to try to muzzle the church and make it back down. The fact that he's not backing down is like an early sign of a new phase of what's coming in America. And that's where the Christian influence in a holistic and healthy and responsible way is starting to shape the environment around them rather than withdrawal from it.
Yeah, let me go to you, Pastor Hank. You're, in the other part of the country there, but, you've had to stand up for things there in Omaha since you've pastored there. There's a new breed of pastor that we're seeing. There seems to be one of two types. The one that doesn't do anything and just takes whatever comes their way, or the guy that says, no, wait a minute. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to push back. This is what people need to understand, the role of a pastor. Or am I not getting that right, Pastor Hank?
No, it's absolutely right, and I applaud Pastor Landon. You're doing a great job, and it's what we're doing up here in Omaha, Nebraska. We're making a difference as well. And listen, we are the church. We are called to be salt and light, and it's amazing when you do something like this, the pushback that you get. And, you know, I just want to encourage Pastor Landon because, look, Psalm 103, you have God's backing already. It says that one of the benefits in verse 6 is that God will give righteousness and justice to all those that are oppressed. So you're going to get God's backing on it no matter how many squirrels on the left want to stop it. But here's the thing that I believe. I think what's happening in Fort Worth, and I've seen it even in my own city, is these liberal lefts, when you start wanting to do what your calling requires, and that is minister to the brokenhearted. That's what Jesus said, bring deliverance to the captives. They will push back because think about this. It's the same people who are pushing for sexual exploitation of children in the schools, in the libraries, and also pushing for transgender mutilation of children. These people are sick, and so they don't want to see the alternative that destroys their agenda. And lastly, I want to say this. Don't ever forget, we still have an Epstein list out there that needs to be made public. Who's on that list? Why isn't it being revealed? Second, we also have Hillary Clinton's laptop. Why hasn't that ever been dealt with? Because these people have hidden a lot of evil. And I want to just say this. I think there's people in Fort Worth on that city council that they're afraid of some of the stories that are going to come out that are truthful from the victims, and they're trying to hide things. And it's going to continue to backfire because God who sits in the heaven is mocking the evil. He's laughing, but here's a great part. He's now dealing with it. And I'm telling you, I feel very strongly that this that they're trying to do with Lance is going to or Landon is going to shift very quickly, and it's going to be a prototype what's going to break forth on other places and other churches that's going to lead to a great reformation of the building and planting season that God's been waiting for, especially for our children.
Amen. All right, Pastor Landon, tell us again now, can anybody go do this whether they live, or do they need to be a Texas resident?
No, we want the FlashPoint Army to get involved, just like you guys shut down that website. Y'all are dangerous. So join us. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. I don't know how you were raised, but if someone picked a fight with a family member of mine, they had a fight with me too. And so we'd love the FlashPoint Army to go to thejusticereform.com/bold. If you live in Fort Worth in the region, you can see what city council members in your district, or you guys can call them all and just let them know how important the justice residence is. And let's be full of joy, full of the Spirit, but let's be bold and let people know, hey, this is important and we want this and we support this. And another great way that you can get involved is we have our Justice Run coming up on October 26th, that you can be a part of a marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5K. All proceeds are going to go towards this. We've raised $4.6 million of the $15 million project. And so this is happening and this is exciting. So there's many ways that people can get involved and show support. And we're so appreciative of everybody at the FlashPoint Army. Y'all are awesome.
Yeah, amen. We are that. So I think all you guys that you're out there doing your letters for Right Now campaign, you know, while you can be calling, you guys are multitaskers. Ed, what do you think? You've been quiet over there. What do you think about all this going on here in Fort Worth?
Not going to run. Just not going to run. I was in the Marine Corps for like 13 years, Gene. I'm done with the running, but I'll support you. Pastor Landon, you are onto something here. I'm going to take you back in history to January 21st, 1776. You're probably familiar with that year. Pretty consequential year here in the United States. It was a pastor named Peter Muhlenberg, a Lutheran pastor in Woodstock, Virginia.
That's right.
Who walked up onto on to give his sermon that day, gave a sermon on the tyranny of what was coming against America in that particular time, came down from the pulpit, took off his robes, and revealed his Revolutionary War uniform. What I will tell you as a warfighter, having been in the Marines for 20 years, if I include my reserve time, is there were two ways to know as a fighter pilot that we were over the target. The first way, and probably the most effective way, frankly, was to look at our navigation system, which is guided by GPS and very accurate. And the second way, if you didn't have that, was to look down and see the flak. If the enemy was shooting at you, you could pretty much assume that you were pretty close to the target. And Pastor Landon, I just want to encourage you by saying, if the enemy is shooting at you, that means you're close to the target. So we're behind you, brother, and we're praying for you.
Yeah. All right, Landon.
So
final words before we let you go.
I mean, I just appreciate every single one of you. What an encouraging group of men. I get to watch FlashPoint all the time. We appreciate everything that you guys are doing. You're leading the way spiritually. We all know this is not political. This is spiritual. I just want to honor and thank every one of you guys for all that you do for the body of Christ here from FlashPoint.
And thank you, FlashPoint Army, because you guys are engaged. You know, last night you did it again. You shut down another website, the Right Now campaign. So I asked Laurel to come back on here tonight and give us an update to see how well you guys did. All right, Laurel Brooks, give us an update. How well did the FlashPoint Army perform last night?
Your faith and confidence in your army is well deserved, because they were amazing. We started this campaign June 28th. We had our best 24-hour period in the last 24 hours. It's just been incredible. Over 52,000 letters have been adopted. Christians in Pennsylvania who will receive letters from your army. Over 2,000 people put in orders and brought our overall count for Pennsylvania down below 70,000. And I imagine it's below that now. Just as I was telling you, I ran the numbers 30 minutes ago, and they were 2,000 letters more than they were the prior 30 minutes.
Good.
So it's continuing to add up, and we have put a lot more servers on our website because of the FlashPoint Army.
All right, well, let's put that website address up again, rightnow2024.org. All right, so you can do, there's no limit. In fact, tell us about this lady. She sent this picture in, and tell the story before we show her picture.
Yeah, this morning, we just got this email in this morning at 10:35, and she said, "Go FlashPoint Army." And she had a stack of 25 already written, addressed envelopes on her dashboard going to the post office. There they are. And it was 10:35 this morning, and I thought, is she from a couple of weeks ago? So I looked up the order, and she had actually gotten her order at 6:55 this morning. So she had received it, completed it, and was on the way to the post office by 10:35. I just loved it. It was full of passion.
It is full of passion. All right. So how many more left in Pittsburgh or in Pennsylvania? Pittsburgh, Philadelphia?
A little under 70,000. And
All
we
right.
did like 55,000 just today. So if we have another one, we'll clear out Pennsylvania. It'll be fantastic. So
you guys rallied in a big way. We need to do it again. So whatever you did in the last 24 hours, go do it again. Right now, 2024.org, the website, it's very simple. You download, you get the addresses, you download the letter, you personalize it, you stick it in the mail, slap a stamp on it, and mail it. It's that easy. Those of you sitting at home saying, I don't have anything to do, like Hank Kuhneman, he sits alone at home a lot of times, doesn't have anything to do. You could be cranking out letters all the time. So go on, I told you last night, I wanted to wrap up, I wanted to totally obliterate that number for Pennsylvania, getting letters to everyone that needs to know to go vote. All you gotta do is go to the website. Laurel, you're gonna keep us up to date with what's going on, right?
Absolutely. What a joy and a pleasure to be included in on all of this. You have an amazing army.
Yeah, they are amazing. They are amazing. Rick Green, what do you think? We did pretty good last night. We got to do it again.
Man, this is what it's all about, brother. This is action, right? This is actually being biblical citizens. It's not enough to just take the biblical citizenship class. You got to go take action out there. And so I'm so thankful for My Faith Votes teaming up with FlashPoint Army on this. And this is just, Gene, I think just a hint of things to come. I think we're going to see the FlashPoint Army doing more and more just like this, where they're taking tangible, honestly easy steps, right? I mean, this is not a difficult thing to do. We're not having to go to war. We're not having to cross the Delaware in a snowstorm.
Right.
This is doable. And man, last night, sorry, Laura, I love the fact that we crashed their website. I think that's just a great example of how big the FlashPoint Army is. And let's do it again tonight, man.
Yeah, let's do it again. Pastor Hank, did you write your letters?
You know, that's for Brenda to do, since I stay at my house, according to you, Pastor Gene, and do nothing. I kind of was a little offended by that, but I'll just move on because I'm a good Christian. But I will say this. You know what it reminds me of? The book of Nehemiah. Remember when it says the people had a mind to work? And that's what they did to help rebuild the walls. It's how we're going to rebuild America. They had a building tool, which let's get out and vote, and also a fighting tool. Let's continue to pray, and we're going to see restoration come to our great country again.
That's right. Lance, all right, so you weren't here last night. We rallied the FlashPoint Army to get out and encourage those folks who haven't voted, who've been but that are believers, Christians, to go vote and make their voices heard. And this is such a great thing My Faith Votes is doing with Laurel.
It is great, and ironically, being in the same cosmic one mind and one accord, I was on Steve Bannon's War Room. It's just broadcast at 6, and what was I pushing? My Faith Votes. So I was pushing people to the website at 6 p.m. In the War Room. So, and so the War Room posse is what Bannon calls it, and they mobilize. But I think the FlashPoint Army and the War Room posse are becoming two formidable organizing entities that's taking the capacity of media to mobilize the masses. And it's getting people's attention, whether we like that visibility or not, because people do have a mind to work. They just don't know what to do.
Listen, why do you think they have nicknamed her Cackling Kamala? Because when you don't know what you're talking about, you laugh. You cackle. And to Rick's point, remember that? Oh, I think you should re-show that clip from last night when she was absolutely talking about what we celebrate and know as Columbus Day and the history of our country. But it sounded like she was saying that the liberal left discovered America. Remember what she said? She goes, when they came to this country, they invoked and brought violence and put disease on the people and stole land. Well, that's all what the Democrats did, remember? They were part of the COVID-19 pandemic. They were part of allowing the open borders to take our country. And they were also part, we know, of, just the different evil that they've allowed in our country. And I just think, you know what? When you don't have something good to say, you are like the enemy. He's an angel of light. You can't create anything, so you just plagiarize it. And I think it's all unraveling. It's all being exposed, and it's going to continue to spiral down. You watch.
Since you asked for it, let's play. This was Kamala Harris's speech about Columbus Day. Watch it.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
Okay, Lance. What do you think?
Well, Gene, it's I think what really comes to my mind is when you're listening to her speechwriter, which she's willing to say because she believes it, you're listening to the basic Marxist progressive strategy of tearing down America at every point of its founding, all the way down to the fathers, all the way down to any of them that had, or slave holdings or something, tearing down the statues, unraveling as much as possible all of the history of the United States to make it appear as though it is the evil empire that needs to be reduced back to nothing so that it can be built back better. This is the thesis of how the Marxist progressive has been able to poison young people in a hatred of America so that they become anti-national and become more global. Now, who's behind the real dismantling of patriotism for a nation so that you become more globalist? I remember the chant 4 years ago. We were trying to figure out no borders, no wall, no USA at all. That was the beginning of the border wall issue with Trump back in 2016. And I thought, they're being taught these chants by the academics and by the ideologues who are attempting to dismantle the borders of America, the history of America, the memory of America as a positive force or a positive story. You take any child, Gene, any young kid that I work with in the inner city, and you spend hours every week telling them how their parents were losers, their grandparents were criminals, and their great-grandparents were conquerors. And what you do is you cause a disillusionment in the heart so that you be open to what? What the Maoists did, which was we're going to now relaunch an entire different nation and absolve the memory of who you were so that we could start all over. Kamala Harris is revealing that's exactly what she would do as president.
It's just hard to believe. It's like they're living in an alternate reality. Let me show you this from MSNBC with Joy Reid. Wait till you hear this one.
At this point, you can't call what Trump is running a campaign. As friend of the show David Corn points out in Mother Jones, what Trump and J.D. Vance and House and Senate Republicans are running is a massive disinformation campaign aimed at warping Americans' reality. And they're doing it with violent, terrifying, and sometimes bizarre conspiracy theories that set the table for maybe armed resistance to a Kamala Harris win or mass acceptance of American fascism. Trump and Republicans, backed by far right-wing billionaires like Elon Musk and right-wing media and anti-woman manosphere podcasts, are creating social media or gaming social media apps like X Twitter in Trump's favor and pumping disinformation into the brains of Trump supporters. Not quite foreign interference, but not exactly different from what Vladimir Putin would do.
Okay, Rick, I'll give you that one.
Well, I had to chuckle at the far-right billionaire. Elon Musk is now a far-right billionaire. I mean,
right.
This is hilarious. But, I'm listening to that and listening to what Lance said earlier. And, we gave them an opening to do exactly what Lance just described. And, of course, the left always projects, right? So everything that she's saying that the Trump campaign is doing, of course, it's exactly what the Harris campaign is doing. Everything she's saying about the supporters of Trump that they're doing, of course, that's exactly what the Harris campaign is doing. They are literally lying and creating this false narrative and all of these things. But we gave them the opening. So what Lance described, that Marxist design of tearing down the institutions so that you can remake a nation into this communist, Maoist type world. The only way they're able to do that is because we did what Ronald Reagan warned us about 45 years ago. He said, if we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. He said, I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that will result in an erosion of the American spirit. That's exactly what happened when we stopped teaching civics, stopped teaching history, stopped telling the great stories, and only telling the ugly. Gene, we always say, tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. Teach it all. But if you don't teach the good and you only teach some anecdotal, ugly stories, you make your own children hate their own nation. If we'll get back to teaching truth, we can once again restore patriotism, restore love of country, but not make the same mistakes that the country made in previous years. So we gave them the opening. They took it. Now it's time for us to take ground back.
Yeah, let me go to you, Ed. What do you think? You agree with that?
I mean, the last two clips scratched the fingernails on the chalkboard in my head. I'll just start with that. But really, just to speak directly to you as you're watching the show, and you're asking, what am I supposed to think about this? The answer is not what you should think. You should smile. Just like Pastor Hank said earlier, this is the answer to our prayers, that evil is being exposed and that these words are coming out. And when you watch those last two clips, the vice president reading from her teleprompter, as Lance said, and that Joy Reid speaking hyperbole about far-right extremist, Elon Musk, what you should see is the absolute loss of power of not only the federal government wordsmiths, but also the mainstream media. And you should smile because that's a result of your prayers. The evil that's being exposed is being exposed because of your prayers and also because of platforms like social media that give actual Americans the actual ability to think for themselves. The fact that Joy Reid is quoting from the highly reputable source, Mother Jones magazine, just goes how far their influence has fallen. And it's a result of you. Your job is to keep it going past November 5th, actually all the way through into January, so that we can seal the deal on this victory.
Yeah, all right. So, Pastor Hank, do you have a subscription to Mother Jones?
No, just Mother Teresa. I'm more of a fan of Mother Teresa. I don't know about Jones. I think that was a song, Mother Jones, or something like that. Anyway, you know what's so stupid about that clip is from that Joy Reid is why aren't they talking about joy? Remember where they were all talking about joy, joy, joy? Yeah. Is it because everything's unraveling and falling apart? They're realizing there isn't any joy anymore. And here's what's so stupid also. You want to call out Elon Musk. What about the Soros left billionaire that was known to be part of the 2020 election nonsense that took place? See, they never want to call that stuff out. They always want to point their finger somewhere else. I want to say this last thing. You know, Pastor Gene, I've been talking to people because in my city they put this little blue dot up thinking it's going to come down to Omaha and our particular district that could determine the whole election. And I ask them, I say, why are you voting blue? And they'll say, some will say, well, because I'm not voting for Trump. No, that's not what I asked. Why are you voting blue? Most of them have no clue what it really means, the Democratic Party, what they stand for, what they want to do, what they've already done. And so we've got to get out there and educate people. And Lance made an incredible point, and that is we've got to get to the younger generation because they've been indoctrinated, not educated. And I think they're the key to see our country turn.
All right, Lance, I'm going to let you comment before I change directions. See what I did there? I'm giving you the opportunity.
Well, I thank you, Gene.
Yeah,
although I think
pleasure.
this subject's been pretty much, this subject's been driven into the ground. But let me just make a comment that I am amazed that Joy Reid would quote with almost like scholastic authority, Mother Jones. Like I would go to Chuck E. Cheese for foreign policy. The left will quote anybody as long as it's derogatory. And the disinformation, here's the interesting thing. Trump is doing 40-minute, 50-minute, 90-minute conversations with NBC. The guys, he will talk. Everybody knows that. Vance has done 3 times more interviews than Waltz has done. Our side is not afraid of dialogue. The people that are afraid of freedom of speech are the people who want to shut it down because the speech exposes their hypocrisy or the shallowness of their ideas. But they're coming for freedom of speech. That's where the Joy Reid monologue there is, you can't trust the disinformation. No, you can't trust the fact that we keep on turning on the lights and showing you where the cockroaches are running.
But we're going to turn on some lights again right here. Speaker Johnson did this interview on Face the Nation. I don't know if they knew this, but I guess he set his phone or a camera down here to the side and recorded his responses to all the questions. This is what came out of that.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
So that's a different accounting than this 2% you say was distributed.
Yeah, so they've obligated some funds, but they've only distributed 2%. And when I was there on the ground, and you should go, I mean, bring the cameras and talk to the people there. They'll tell you, don't take politicians' words for this or the administration's word. Talk to the people there on the ground. They had not been provided the resources almost 2 weeks out from the storm that they desperately needed. And when I was there, 13 days post the storm hitting that state, people are still being rescued. They're stuck in the higher elevations in the mountains because the roads are down and all the rest. So they need every available resource and all hands on deck. The rescue and recovery effort's still going on, and then we address the rest of it.
Now, first off, Rick, I thought it was brilliant that he did that, but he posted it on the Speaker of the House background. I mean, talk about, he's not calling anybody out. He's showing exactly what happened.
Yeah. Hey, good strategies, good tactics. This is, frankly, what we're going to have to do from now on, right? With all of the major media, we've seen it now where, actually we were able to show the rambling of Kamala Harris and how they then covered that up with the short answers. And so this type of thing is just going to have to be done if you want to get truth out there for sure. And Gene, if you don't mind, I just want to say something about what Hank was saying a few minutes ago, because it is so true in terms of educating people. Just an anecdotal good news for everybody. I was doing my radio show today, and 2 calls in a row were people that said, I used to vote Democrat. I had no idea. I'd never read the Constitution. I didn't know anything about any of these things. And somebody gave me a copy of the Constitution. I read it. And then the next caller was like, you know what? I'm now talking to this guy. He said, listen, I'm black. I have a lot of, people that I talk to that say I vote Democrat just because that's how I voted in the past. And he said, what I've started doing is just asking them, what are you actually voting for? What would you like to see in office? And so he just gets them to start thinking through these things. I just want to say, listen, these people did this on their own. They started getting hungry for truth. So the education that Hank's talking about, people want it. And so don't be afraid to speak. Everybody out there that has truth and you have FlashPoint, you need to be sharing it and you need to be speaking, because that education is taking place. And so these fake news outlets and these lies and these Joy Reid types, it's going to start falling on deaf ears if we can just get the truth into people's hands.
That's true.